Let's move on to comments from the commission.
Yeah, I'm happy to quickly wrap this up. I think we have exhausted what we've been able to go through here. We have talked through the fire scenarios. I believe fire finds the project to be compliant. We have talked through the track record of fires, and it appears like Summerhill has a track record of safety with the projects that they've had, and they will continue to look for measures and best practices between what they're doing and what the fire department requires and what staff require for a fire safety plan to meet those requirements. We have talked through the best practices for privacy, and I don't have a good sense of whether the neighborhood really wants trees and hedges, because I keep hearing the ask is for setback and 2-floor, which we have discussed at length. I do not see an ask for privacy hedges, but I'm willing to put a motion that amends the conditions of approval to consider including privacy hedges. If commissioners want to support that, and let the applicant work that with the community and staff, if that's something. And then finally, I believe there is a condition in the Mooney Code that limits the passage of trucks during school hours. And so I'd like to just ask that we amend the staff recommendation to include the hours of restriction for trucks to be 7:30 to 9:30 and 2 to 4 p.m. per the Mooney Code on streets that abut the project, specifically McClellan, Santa Teresa, Linda Vista, Hyannisport. With that, I'd like to move that motion if I have a second. No seconds?
I'll second it for I'll second it for the purposes of discussion. Any further comments from commission?
Yeah, I don't know if it's a friendly amendment or what, but I would prefer that we don't waive the park and lieu fee in order to get the connection to Stevens Creek Trail, just because I think they would put that in anyway.
I will accept that friendly amendment. Would the seconder accept the friendly amendment?
I'm not sure, because there is probably an additional cost incurred upon the developer.
Would Commissioner Scharf second the motion if I accepted your friendly amendment?
Sure.
Okay, we have a motion and a second.
Can you clarify what you mean by you think they're going to build it anyway?
Right. I mean, if you look at the parcel, it's a big benefit to the residents of those 51 units. It's a big selling point, and yet they're asking for this huge amount reduction in the park and lieu fees, and I don't like that idea.
So just so the record is clear, Commissioner Rao, perhaps you can withdraw your motion and rescind your motion and then make a new one, and then Chair Scharf can second it, because right now the pending motion is seconded by the chair.
I see. So I would rescind the original motion. I would make a new motion that moves the staff recommendation with the following amendments. We will not waive the park in lieu fee. As a second condition of approval, the hours of operation for trucks shall be limited to not operate during 7:30 to 9:30 and 2 to 4 p.m. as per the Mooney Code for the streets surrounding the project, namely Linda Vista Drive, Hyannisport, Bub, and McClellan. And there was one more. And a consideration to include privacy shrubs if the applicant and the residents find that to be amenable. Those are the three conditions. Commissioner Scharf, do you approve? Or do you second?
Sure, I'll second it.
Vice Chair Scharf, I'm sorry.
Yes, I still second it.
Can I ask a clarifying question? So to the developer, what are your thoughts on if we don't approve the waiver of the in lieu park fees up to $370,000 for the trail access?
Yeah, we would not be building that trail. That's not part of the project.
Can you speak in the mic, please?
Yeah, we would not be building that trail if the city does not want to pay for the construction of it. There's a good portion of our company that believes that trail is non-beneficial to the project for the amount of people that are going to be going in and out of the project. So they would prefer not to have it. But I stood here and said we want to be neutral because we want to provide what planning commissioners and council members would want to have for their city, but we would not want to bear the expense of that trail because we don't believe that's beneficial for the project.
Through the chair, I have a little experience in this space in that in the neighborhood I am in, we have a trail that egresses through my neighborhood. And we have had a number of burglaries where burglars will ingress and egress through those exit points. And that's been a source of constant nuisance for the neighborhood. And so just want to point out that these routes can be pathways for burglars to get in and out, just a public safety aspect to consider as well. Thank you.
It's public safety, and it does become a nuisance for that neighborhood. So again, we don't want to build it, but we're just trying to be accommodating. We certainly couldn't build it with the project as proposed and pay for it.
So will there be a fence that prevents access to the trail from?
Yeah, there's our plans. So there's an exhibit for the trail, but which is separate from our plans, but our plans shows a continuous open view fencing at the back of the project.
I see.
It seems like it's the same as the
So I'll just
Fontana
point.
site, right?
Sorry?
I think we had the same discussion on that one, yeah.
Sorry, what was that?
I was just saying that I believe we had the same discussion on the Fontana project.
Oh.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to point out a couple of things. One is the residents of Cupertino over and over and over again keep saying that connectivity to trails is really important to them. That's one of the highest points of agreement in all the city surveys that are done. If you look at the best practices for city planning, having access to nature within a 5-minute walk is considered optimal in city planning. It's the 330-300 rule. So having access to nature within 300 meters, which is about a 5-minute walk. I do think this would be beneficial to the neighborhood, especially since this would be public access. So I am a strong supporter of this. And I think this is something we should invest in because we're not going to get the chance to do this again. So it's and if it's at cost, it seems like and I've spent a lot of time looking at trail costs. I know this is a very reasonable cost as it goes. So I would suggest a friendly amendment to include the trail in the motion.
Through the chair, I would not be able to accept that for the reasons of public safety, but also the fact that the city is facing fiscal constraints and a waiver of park in lieu fees is significant at this point. Finally, the public has access to the trail through Linda Vista Park, I believe, as well as ample access to parkland through Linda Vista Park. So I really am hesitant for all of those reasons, and particularly public safety, because I think we ought to be very conscious of, these new developments tend to be more prone to burglaries. They look at people that are newly moved in as sort of less on the guard, and it's just a lot of cases where new projects tend to get burglarized, or the homes around new projects get burglarized. So this isn't just the Everledge Court project itself, but the homes on Linda Vista Drive need to maintain public safety, and we just want to keep public safety in mind. So I would not accept that. Thank you.
So I'll just point out that the homes along all the trails in the city have no safety issues, that there's no data to show that there's been any increase in burglaries or any kind of safety issues along Regner Creek Trail, for example, which is the highest traffic trail in the city. So I don't think there's any data to back up the safety issue.
So
Commissioner Linskog, may I suggest perhaps you want to make a substitute motion?
Okay, I'll make a substitute motion to accept the staff. Basically everything Commissioner Rao said, but also include the trail.
I'll second that.
All right, did we have any further comments from Commission? I will go ahead and comment. From my end, I thank the community for coming tonight. I think you have every right to be frustrated about this. The applicant knows how many times I've asked, how this project could be redone, and it's very disappointing to me that we were not able to give more setback or lower buildings. And I take the decisions that we make here in Planning Commission very seriously, and in order to be able to reject a setback waiver, I have to be able to prove that it is detrimental to public safety or public health somehow. And while I could technically just reject something and send it to council without giving them, any good reason, I'm just putting the burden of proof on them. And so it's just very difficult for me to make I have no findings showing that we're hurting public health at the moment. And so, but it is disappointing. I think I fully agree this doesn't fit with the neighborhood. The zoning does not fit. It should not have been R3. And, the commissioners that sit here, there's little we could have done about it. So, I think we're in the difficult place of having no legal choice. We have done our best to answer the questions that have come to us, and the answers consistently seem to be that everything is in compliance with fire, and city is deferring to the fire department to make the rulings that they do think that this development is defensible in the event of a fire. And as we are not fire experts, we must also defer to that ruling. So I have disappointment, but this is where I'm at. Thank you. Commissioner Rao.
So through the chair, we are now voting on a substitute motion that a yes vote would waive park in lieu fees, and a no vote would fail the substitute motion. Effectively, we would go back to the original motion on the table. Thank you.
Are we ready to vote, or are there any further comments?
This is just on this particular amendment, right?
Yes.
I mean, I have summary comment as well.
Okay, go ahead.
Go ahead with that. Yeah, okay. I think that coming into this, it was clear that whether the fire issues are addressed whether the fire issues were going to be addressed appropriately. I feel comfortable that they have been to the standards to which you can ask, the community can hold you to resolve this issue. I think that there's been thought in the design, with regard to the setback issue. There's been thought to design about how the frosted windows and the direction that they face kind of addresses the problem of people staring into other people's homes. I think it didn't address the height that the people on the south side would see. So I would encourage you to just try to be creative there, short of necessarily taking a floor out. Is there a way you can modify the profile of the building so that it doesn't seem as tall on that side? I think that's the only place where that's an issue, where there's a very short setback. One area I was surprised to, there was one mention about the school districts. There was one mention in there about about some of the revenues that would come to the schools, and I think that's good. I was a very active parent. My son went to Regnart, which would not be in this zone. I think this particular kids who were living here at that time would have went to Lincoln, but went to Regnart, Kennedy, and Monte Vista. Regnart is closed because nobody can afford to live in our community anymore that has kids. And, I think that this actually helps. At the time, there was relatively new, when he was young, there was a relatively new developmental project at Murano. It's more toward the center, right off De Anza Boulevard. But actually, I remember spending a lot of time going there with, to visit with his, to take him over to visit with his friends. I think that there's a very good chance that your place will be like that for this part of the community, and I think that is something that's a plus, and something not to forget. That's one way to support the schools is by making an environment where it's more possible for there to be families. I think that this actually addresses that pretty well. I would actually say, though, please reach out. I think in my earlier term on the Planning Commission, it would have been unusual for somebody not to talk about, their discussions that they've had with the districts. I would encourage you to reach out to them to understand the ways that, are there things that may not cost you anything that actually help the way that the schools operate. The fact that a project like this could be built is actually a windfall, because of the way Prop 13 works. This would really be a huge windfall for the district. So, that may be sufficient for, that we'd be thankful for that. There were, of course, a lot of discussions when people were building apartments. That's not your business, but when people were building apartments, whether they would be paying parcel taxes. And, this automatically kind of solves that problem. So I think there's a lot of pluses, a lot of community pluses. The fact that these are new places, that they'll be efficient and safe. I think those are all all pluses, and so I'm supportive of the project. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Are any more comments? Are we
Can
ready?
the chair clarify again what the yes vote would mean and the no vote?
So I believe we're voting on your substitute motion, correct? So yes, the yes vote would mean that you would want the only difference between that and your motion, which
So a yes vote would waive park and lieu fees?
yes, would have the trail connection, but would also include the hours of restriction for construction from 7:30 to 9:30 and 2 to 4 p.m., right?
That is in
That's
both
not-
motions.
That's in both motions?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So the only difference is we are voting on a motion that waives park and lieu fees.
Right, and the privacy hedges would also still be included.
Everything else is the same. Are we voting?
Are we voting? The motion carries with Commissioner Rao and Vice Chair Scharf voting no.
All right, thank you very much. We will now move on to, do we have any old business or new business? None? Any staff and commission reports?
Staff does not have any report other than to say the next meeting will be on March 9th. If there's any members of the public that normally attend, that is on a Monday. There is a Planning Commission Academy that most of the commissioners are going to, so that date was moved, and we will be discussing the annual general plan update that goes to Sacramento on April 1st. So this is more informational, but that item will be going. And now I am blanking on the second item that we have.
What about the housing element inventory, the no net loss makeup?
That is not going, that is going to City Council next week, though, on the 3rd.
So it would not come to Planning Commission?
We are planning to come to Planning Commission on that. We just don't have a date certain on that yet.
And any update on Harvest Properties hearing?
Harvest Properties should be coming to the subsequent meeting on March 24th.
And I understand Eden Properties or Eden Housing, is that Eden? That is doing the teacher housing?
Eden is doing the teacher housing site just north of Valco. They volunteered to do a study session for the City Council, even though the permit for that project will only come to the Planning Commission as the final decision-making body, because it is, I don't know if it's 100%, I believe it is 100% affordable to different income categories.
Great, well, thank you very much. Any future agenda setting? No? Then the meeting is adjourned.